All right, I'll say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? Are you all alive? Thank you very much. We begin this interaction with the entitlement, as we had in that sense, led on in the last interaction. This is the life. Do understand, your reality is but one of many realities. It is in that way just as valid an exploration as any other reality. And in fact, all realities are, as has been said, equal. Varying degrees of exploration, varying degrees of vibratory differences between all realities. However, qualitatively speaking, they are equal. One of the factors about your reality that is, shall we say, built into the fabric of this exploration is the creation of time. And to understand, each individual does create time, and we mean that literally. The idea being that from the aspect of your higher self, your oversoul, the totality of who it is you are, shall we say, even out of this life, does not experience the idea you label time, and in fact exists always within what you would call the now moment. From the perspective of your higher self, all of its aspects, all of its realities are occurring in the now, simultaneously. And there is not the separation of before, during, and after. That is part of the definitional boundaries that you are in that way exploring in this reality. Therefore, you have an idea you label reincarnation. And from and within your creation of timeline, this seems to be the mechanism, reincarnating. You live a life and then are so to speak, incarnated. And again, from within a linear time frame, this is an appropriate label. However, again, as we have said, from the aspect, from the oversoul perspective, everything is occurring simultaneously. And therefore, the timeline does not apply. From that perspective, from, again, the totality of the beings that you are, everything is simultaneous. And therefore, reincarnation no longer applies. More what is, shall we say, the mechanism is multiple simultaneous incarnations. So therefore, from the perspective of this life, you do seem to be born, live a life, die, and then reincarnate, but that is simply a creation of and from timing. So therefore, you may understand that you are, in fact, eternal. There are, shall we say, although there are three, we will discuss two main trends of thought in your reality. Shall we say ideologies, theologies, dogmas, one of which does speak of the idea of reincarnating, and in a sense, does acknowledge your eternalness. But you do have, shall we say, another distinction, another description, that idea of this being the only life there is. Understand from our perspective, they are both true. Neither one or the other is true. They are both true. You are, in fact, reincarnational beings, or multiple simultaneously incarnating beings. However, the you are now, you will only be this one time. So therefore, both things are truly true. You do, in fact, lead many lives. You are, in fact, eternal. However, from the perspective of this life, this is the life. And you can now understand what may put you in strong identification with the way your oversoul or higher self perceives reality is understanding that even within your creation of time, you too only ever exist right now, in the now moment. Therefore, when you create time, you do so from the present, from right now. When you are remembering the past, you are in fact recreating the past from right now. and therefore not really reliving it, but simply creating it in the present. When you in that way extrapolate what will be, what we sometimes loosely label what if scenarios, that is futuring, creating a future, however, from the now, right now. So you are always within the now. And when we say this is the life, what we mean is you always have in any given now moment, within any given life, including this one, everything you need in order to be the person you chose to be by exploring this reality. All it takes is that realization. For you do create your reality through what you believe to be most strongly so, through your belief systems. Therefore, you can understand that if you believe in being affected by time, you will experience that reality. But if you will begin to realize that you do have everything you need in any now moment, that can be a new belief. And then you will experience that reality. It is only a belief that you do not, in any now moment, have everything you need. Whatever belief you have, you then act as though you have that belief. If you do not believe that in the now moment you have everything you need, you act as though you do not. And therefore, is it not most obvious that you would create that reality and not allow yourself to see the very opportunities present in that now moment? If you will begin now to decide you wish to redefine your reality to understand that any given now moment does contain anything you need, your actions will now differ. If you act as though a person who believes that, you will act differently than you would have had you not. And what will happen is you will now begin to look at what is right in front of your face. For very often you are searching for the things you say you desire and not in that way taking advantage of the reality you have created right now. So when we say this is the life, you can simply begin now within this life right now to get in touch with the purposes that you have created yourself to experience. Now we have discussed many times in your society that from our perspective, you can always very easily identify with what your purpose is. And we have labeled that your barometer or pointer for doing so is your excitement. The reason in that way that something excites you is it is a strong reflection of who you are, what you have chosen to be. And there are in that way two, shall we say, distinctions in our discussions of excitement. The thing which excites you the most in your whole life. And you may, in a sense, loosely define that as your overall purpose. But in any given moment, when you will begin to acknowledge that you have in the now moment what you need, you can simply always establish your moment-to-moment purpose by, when realizing that you do have it all right here, right now, beginning to look around at what the immediate available options are. And then only choosing from those options the one that excites you the most. The reason, again, that it does excite you is that is your indication that that thing is most you. And we need not, again, extrapolate that if you are doing something that excites you, it will be most effortless. Allow us, however, to add two things. Because it is most you and excites you, it will be, again, most effortless. But the universe always supports any idea you are being most fully at any given now moment. Therefore, when functioning from your excitement, the universe will provide whatever abundance, whatever support you need to continue to be the you are being. It has always done so. Simply that you have not given yourself, shall we say, the advantage of defining who it is you wish to be, acting that way and allowing that support to come in from the universe. Also, the third idea is that excitement leads to all other excitement. So the thing immediately available that excites you may seem to have nothing to do with the thing that excites you overall the most in your life, but it does. And by the virtue of the fact that it does excite you, that is your indication. One last idea regarding excitement as a barometer is that excitement also provides to you the indication by the mere fact, by definition, that you are excited about that thing, that you are most capable of doing it. So do realize that you never do create again, by definition, a reality you can't handle. If you define that you have, you will act that way and seem to get that result. But realize you are handling that, and therefore it still stands. You can always, by attracting any situation into your immediate vicinity, your immediate reality, use that as an indication that you are able to handle it. You do not, in that sense, get dealt extra cards. There is nothing pointless or extraneous in creation. Everything fits. So again, you can use the ideas of your reincarnational lives to glean interesting information. But in no way, shape, or form do you need to know that. Because as we have said, you have everything you need in any given moment. If you define that you do not, you can then place your power outside to any of the externalized symbols. But you are still creating that, and still in that way exercising your power, which you will always do. Always, always, always do you create your own reality. However, not always consciously, and therefore not always according to preference. When you do so unconsciously, allowing ingrained beliefs from your society that may limit you to, in that way, provide the parameters, very often you will create a reality that seems most automatic and most non-preferential. But again, you are creating it. And in order to change any belief, including the belief that you do create your own reality or do not, you must first own that belief. Then you can change it. You cannot change what you do not own. So therefore, if you will begin to even be willing to think that perhaps, you create your own reality, you will begin to provide the evidence to yourself that this is so. And again, recognize how you have always been creating it. This indeed is the life in more than one way. For again, you have led many lives. There has been, shall we say, the imposition by your mass consciousness that is brought in most strongly by individual consciousness of the past 25,000 years of your history being representative of a cycle, the cycle of limitation. Recognize now you are living in the transformational age and, in fact, the transformational lifespan. So when we say this is the life, we also mean that this is the life within which, within one single lifetime, you can experience that limitation, which we feel we need not offer any exploration of. You have all in some way experienced that limitation. But within the same lifespan, you are now enabled to transform, to integrate, and begin to create consciously so that you can have both experiences in the same lifetime. This life. This is that life. So therefore, utilize the very momentum that you as a society have created. The cycle of integration is what you are entering into now. Shall we say you will evolve in a whole new way when you begin to do this on a planetary basis. But it is not that, it is the, shall we say, burden of each individual, for you have what is called in your society a mass consciousness. An electromagnetic, shall we say, dimensionality, field, plane, if you will, that represents the sum total of the consciousness of all upon any given plane, any given planet. That mass consciousness takes on many momentums. And as each individual in your society begins to recognize that they do create their own reality and do so consciously, this adds to that momentum within the mass consciousness. And the effect is enhancing. The effect is synergistic. And what happens is it becomes easier for all within that field, within that mass consciousness, to allow themselves to transform. And this again brings us to a final point. When you begin to recognize your creatorhood, you will very quickly recognize and realize that the way in which you create your reality is not through making it happen, forcing it to happen, wrestling it to the ground and beating its head in. No. The idea is life always works anyway if you let it. And allowance is the mechanism. You do not, in that sense, make your life be the way you wish. You allow it. And do understand that these are entirely, almost polarly opposite perspectives. You cannot force things to change. Change is the only constant in reality. You can, however, force things to stay the same. But by simply lightening up, relaxing your grip, things automatically change. And when you will allow them to transform, then they will. When you will allow what you have already created to deliver a positive meaning, to allow you to grow, it will transform. As we have said, all situations are fundamentally neutral, blank, zip, as you say. You provide the meaning, and the meaning you provide determines the effect you get out. There is a tendency in your society when a particular style or type of incident happens to immediately say, that is very bad. But recognize if you label it very bad and get a very bad effect, but the symbol still hangs around, you have not gleaned its purpose. Symbols are not extraneous, and they always are corresponding to some message that you wish to deliver yourself. If you label it negative, and it does go away, perhaps you can say that was the message. But you will find that all inherently neutral situations contain equal potentiality for positive and negative. When again, you will decide to label something negative and get that effect and it still hangs around, that does not mean you are doomed to experience it through all reality, through all time. The way to transform it is to begin to look at, now that you have seen what is obviously bad in your vernacular about it, to begin to see any way that it serves you. That is owning your creations. What you will find is that when you allow it to deliver the positive message that allows the symbol to serve you, it will transform. So therefore, this is how you can begin in this sense, to stray your reality, to allow your reality to become the reality you desire. Own what you already have. Let it deliver its messages. Let it, in that way, allow it to key you in to beliefs that you still have that are limiting you. When again, individuals in your society find they have beliefs that they do not prefer to have, very often they go into what you label denial. But this does not in that way allow you to own and transform it. Keeps it hanging around till you will admit that you have it. So begin to realize that there is no weakness in beginning to admit to yourself the beliefs that you have that you do not prefer. For that is ultimate strength. And it brings it back into the now moment. It allows you in that way to decide to utilize it. And it will always never disappoint you in that way. So begin to own the reality you have already created. Glean the beliefs that you have which are limiting you. When you find you have a belief which you no longer prefer, realize that because you have had that belief, you have acted as though a person who has had that belief. Now look at the belief you prefer to have. State it aloud. Allow yourself to imbue it with the emotionality of how you truly desire to have that belief. Use your imagination to conjure up how a person would act if they already had that belief and act that way. And that is all. That immediately changes the reality. That immediately has what you are putting out being reflective of a person who has that belief. And you will immediately get that effect if what you get, you are in that sense willing to very loosely label. Not use anything coming in as evidence that it is not working, and using anything coming in to again glean how it serves you. Glean how in that way it allows you to do a particular thing. Therefore, do recognize, whether or not you choose to experience it that way, this is the life. And you can create this life to be any life you wish by simply not invalidating what excites you, by simply, literally not analyzing to death what excites you, by simply not assigning everybody knows you can't do that for a living to what excites you. Everybody does not know that, and you can choose. At this timing, we wish to express to you our appreciation for your willingness to even begin to look at such an idea. We live our lives upon our planet in this way, and therefore, we too can only experience realities we are the vibration of. The one law in creation is what you put out is what you get back. Whatever vibration you are being is the only reality you can experience. You cannot experience a reality you are not the vibration of. So the mere possibility of us having this dialogue, of us communicating in this way, indicates to me that you are, shall we say, ultimately able to express this potential within yourself. Otherwise, we would not find you. We would not see you. So different from us would you be. Therefore, I express my appreciation to you, for in a mass way, you have begun to open up, to begin to think that there may just be someone out there. From our perspective, that is a given. But we do thank you for your willingness to very literally act as diplomats and ambassadors for your civilization, while enabling me to be an ambassador for our respective civilizations. And for the gift of this sharing, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Sharing.